accomplished during his career. Please visit rigsbee.com, his last name.com. But with that being said, let's welcome this impressive person to our virtual stage.
Thank you, Eva. That's very, very kind of you. Appreciate those kind words. I'm going to jump right into the screen share. And, you know, as I get ready to get going here, I love to get ready to get ready. I just want to make, okay, hold on. Oh, this is fun. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint will not let me move. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to do it a little bit different than I usually do. I found a little teeny weeny arrow at the very bottom. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. So we're going to talk about why in the world would you want to sell to associations? We're going to talk about your positioning. Now, this is something that everybody kind of thinks that really, really got wired. In my experience is too frequently, not so much. We're going to talk about actually getting on the telephone and using my basic method of making relationship bank deposits to find out who the decision makers are. We're going to talk about different ways to find associations, online and hard copy. We're going to talk about you can pay to get this information or get it free, where and how you can mine data from association websites. I'll talk about also meetings, industry events, meetings, industry publications, and article logistics, provided that we have time. Now, if we don't get all the way to the end, that means that I either did a crummy job of managing my time or you guys asked too many questions. And because of the fact that I have 3 older sisters, I'm the youngest little boy of 3 older sisters, I kind of consider myself damaged, and I like to blame all of my life's problems on my sisters. So why should I take accountability for life when I can blame my sisters? So in that vein, if I don't get through this, I'm going to blame it on you because you asked too many questions. See, again, why should I take personal accountability if I don't have to? That's my MO. So I want to also stress, here's a really important point. Today is only about trade associations and professional societies. So if you asked a question about corporations, I'm going to pretty much defer it because it's, if you speak at trade associations and professional societies, that can lead you into a lot of corporate work. And what we're talking about, though, is the specific aspect of trade associations and professional societies. So within that, something that you kind of want you to see the difference. Like, for instance, most of us are members of NSA National. Okay, National Speakers Association, well, it has the word association in it. It really isn't. It's truly a professional society. So most, and there's always exceptions to this rule, but most professional societies, it's where the individual member joins. Most trade associations, it's where the company joins. So with trade associations, the company joins and all their members have access to the benefits. With professional societies, it's the individuals join. It's good for you to understand this, is in particularly when you're talking to meeting decision makers, to understand where they fit. I'm gonna, as Eva said, I run a Tuesday morning association CEO group, and I've been doing this ever since the pandemic started. and they pay to be in the group. And I get a lot of information from them, as well as ASAE, which I belong to, is American Society of Association Executives. And I'm in probably about 8 of their online listservs for anything from CEOs to executives to meetings to marketing, so forth and so on. So I'm constantly looking at the environment of what's going on. So I'm going to share with you what I see that's important for you and I to know about for this year. So a big issue is still getting attendees to the live meetings. And there are several reasons. Some companies still don't want their employees to travel. A lot of governmental bodies don't want their employees to travel. And a lot of husbands and wives don't want their spouses to travel. And so we're still dealing with the remnants of that. Okay, with United States being at 13% inflation, let's just face it, the meetings, the cost of the meetings have skyrocketed. They've just really, really skyrocketed. So that puts a situation where, like today, without getting too political here, I mean, people are having to decide, do I pay my rent or do I put gas in my car? Here in Southern California, our natural gas just doubled. So as an example, last month, my natural gas bill for heating was almost $600, and it's usually $100. So things are changing, causing people to have to make new decisions. And so that goes into whether they will go to a meeting. It goes based on the cost and other things. It goes into when they put the meetings together, is there going to be money for speakers? And during the first couple of years of the pandemic, the hotels were not enforcing the attrition clauses. And the attrition clause is you book a block of rooms, let's say 500 rooms. If you don't sell those 500 rooms to your members, you pay for those rooms. That's attrition clauses. And the hotels, the first couple of years of the pandemic, were pretty cool at letting the associations renegotiate. But right now, not so much. And even NSA has been hit at the last few influences with attrition penalties. Also, associations are dealing with recruiting and retaining staff. A lot of them, went virtual. A lot of employees don't want to come back from being virtual. They're nonprofits, so most of the executive directors or CEOs have to get their board to give them more money. That is a real challenge. And especially a lot of the national associations housed around DC, people are bouncing around from job to job. So they're having a very, very difficult time. And what that means to you and me is it might be harder for us to get to the decision makers because there's less people doing the work. Associations are also really dealing with the membership issue. So when the pandemic hit, the first 6-8 months, members weren't renewing. They go, well, it's just the pandemic. They didn't really accept that it's not the pandemic, it's a value problem. And now 3 years down the road, a lot of associations are dealing with a lot less members, and they're finally realizing, oh, yeah, it's not the pandemic, it's the value problem. So they're dealing with that. Also, associations are dealing with budget constraints. A lot of associations used their reserves during the pandemic to keep the lights on, keep the doors open. And so this is now finally coming home to roost that they're having to figure out what they're going to do. As such, associations have got a greater reliance on non-dues revenue. So back around 1970, most associations and societies, their budget was covered with about 95% of it with member dues. Today, if they get 50% of their budget covered with member dues, they're lucky. So today, the non-dues revenue, the big meetings, the workshops, the products, so forth and so on, that works out well for us because a lot of them are doing more workshops, regional, online, things like that, where they can really use us. So that's very, very cool for you and me. But understand that there's a greater reliance on non-dues revenue. And their associations are dealing with competition. That they've never experienced before. I mean, they that are doing things to help their members. So, and but this is to be aware of it. So this is the basic landscape of selling.
Cynthia, I don't think it's you. Ed, we lost you just for a little bit there. Hello. I see everybody else's head moving except for Ed's.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was us.
No.
Oh, there he is.
Is there?
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, Ed, we lost you there for about a minute or so.
Okay. So let's see. I guess you probably lost me at the last few points. Of
Just the one last point, actually.
Okay, then let's not worry about it. Let's move
Okay.
on.
Perfect.
So this is what, and you know, if somebody, let me know, go look at if you're not hearing me. So this is things that are green circles or green solid, and I wanted you to understand that there's a lot that goes into what we have to do, but I wanted to going to focus today on article writing, phone call. It wouldn't be a bad idea to take a screenshot of this just to make sure all of these things in mind. Okay, we move on. So now let me talk about the revenue models that we speakers, because most of us love the speak and receive an honorarium. And let me just make a difference between an honorarium and a speaker fee. And pretty much the answer is the same thing. So it's like, is a book titled or entitled? Books are titled. They're not entitled to be read, they're titled. So just sometimes people get a little weird on words. So speak and get paid. That is a model. It's a good model. Another model is speak and get another value. And we'll talk about this more, but it might be you speak association meeting and they give you membership for the year. It might be that they give you the membership list. It might be that they give you the video. It might be that they do other promotions. There's a lot of things beyond just a cash paycheck. Then there's speak for exposure, and you're not allowed to sell. I don't like that. If somebody wants me to come and speak for free, come on. You got to let me do some promotion. Then there's speak to sell without an honorarium. But the idea is, and I see this a lot, and you'll see this a lot in the people that are the affluency people and all kinds of interesting workshop people. So you speak at a conference, you give some good content, you give a free gift. That free gift gets you their email. And then you immediately after that email them an offer for a small product. And the ones that buy that, you email them offer for a little bit bigger product and a little bit bigger with your idea to get them up to your $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 product. This is a really good model for some people. And I would never disc anybody. This is not my model, but it's a good model for some people. Then there's the sponsorships. A lot of associations, sponsors will pay to sponsor the conference and then be given a slot. and they can do the same basic thing. And we're seeing more and more of this as associations are trying to shore up, their revenues, and grow their non-dues revenue. You're going to see more of this moving forward. And then there's a lot of things that you can be thinking about post events and pre-events. And especially if you're in the speak and receive honorarium, or if you are in the area speak and receive other value, you can be talking to them about pre-conference workshops, post-conference workshops, webinars, things like that. So there's a lot there that you can be doing. I put this together for my association and society speakers community last year for one of the workshops I did. And I've added it to this presentation, and just to kind of give you an idea how the whole system out there works. So there are the celebrity speakers, the political speakers, the entertainment, the sports people. They get between $50,000 and $500 to speak. If you're a past president, you probably get closer to $1 million to speak. What is your job? Your job is not to be a great speaker. Your job is to get butts in the seats. Your job is to help them generate registrations. And where do associations find these people? Exclusively with speakers bureaus. So, that might not be the spot that you and I are going to play. Then the next level is like really well-known authors, best-selling New York top list. I'm not talking about the person that was the best-selling author on Tuesday on affinity programs or something, but people that are New York published authors that really have a big name out there. And again, they're in that $50,000 to $100,000 range. Again, their job is to generate people to come to the meeting. Those bookings are exclusively through bureaus. Then we're going to look at like a lot of the higher paid people that are members of NSA, that are I call them the experiencers. They've climbed Mount Everest, they're fighter pilots, they have a life-changing event. Oh, I was on a TWA plane and we were kidnapped or hijacked and I got shot in the head and thrown out in the airport or whatever. I mean, all these amazing stories. And these people, their range is about $10,000 to $30,000, approximately. There's always, their job is not to really generate registration. Their job is at that meeting to excite people, to enthuse people. They tend to be the keynote. And, when we go, what is keynote? A keynote is the first speech of the conference that sets for the conference. When people go, oh, I've got 5 keynotes today. No, there is no such thing. So keynoter, to get people excited. And those people are usually booked through bureaus. And then there's the rest of us mortal human beings. And the rest of us mortal human beings, and a lot of us are what I'd call subject matter experts. We're consultants, we're authors, we're academics, we're industry experts. Our fee kind of is in that $2,500 to $15,000 range, depending if we're doing a breakout, a keynote, depending on the state association and national association. Our job is to give the nuts and bolts how-to. Their members have problems. Our job is to solve those problems. Our job is to bring solutions to the problems. We get booked sometimes through speakers, but actually more frequently direct bookings. Then we've got the entertainer, not the big headliners, but an entertainer. And they're usually booked through entertainment agents, and their fees are in that $500,000 to $20,000 range. They tend to be an after-meal speaker. Then there's just somebody that calls themselves a professional speaker, okay? And that's $1,000 to $7,500. And these are people that are really good at telling the story, have not positioned themselves at a high level expertise. They solve problems. They're good stories. And, again, nuts and bolts, they call them public speakers, which you should never do. And industry speakers, which usually don't even get paid. And again, with content sponsored speakers. I think it's important for you to understand who you're competing with. You know, what slots. And when you're talking to association people, what slots do they have? What kinds of meetings do they have? What's the size of the meeting? So we can determine where we fit. Let me talk for a moment or two, if I may, about why I love trade associations. There's about, if you get an old copy, the last copy of this National Trade and Professional Association Directory, the last hard copy was printed in 2019. You can buy a used copy. I'll talk more about that later. But in this, there's about 7,500 national and international associations and professional societies. When you amortize out their local, national, regional, state organizations, that puts it up to about 100,000. So in the United States, there's about 100,000 organizations that can hire you and me. Not all of them have a $100,000 keynote speaker budget. Many of them have a $5,000 keynote speaker budget, but there's a good number of them out there. And so why I like the associations, because it fits into my model. And my model is to go in the back door. So the associations have publications, because I'm going to talk to them about my articles and make a relationship bank deposit. They have meetings. Now, the thing with corporations, if times go bad, they don't have to put a meeting on. Associations, if they don't put meetings on, they're going to go out of business. Associations will have more experienced meeting planners. You know, if you get ABC Distribution Company and the secretary of the national sales manager, you know, calls you to book you to speak at their meeting, and they say, "What's your keynote fee?" And you say $10,000. They go into hysterics that, "Oh, you get $10,000 for an hour," and they don't really understand the amount of work that we put into for that $10,000 fee. but meeting planners at associations, they do understand. So that means they don't have sticker shock. That means they're more apt to understand the value that you bring. Also, you know, associate a gathering of business leaders. So, okay, if you've got business owners and business leaders in your audience, you can sell to those people if you do a good job. If they really love you, they come into their company. So effectively, speaking at an association meeting is like being paid to showcase. You're getting paid to talk to additional potential clients. What is there not to love about association meetings? And just so you know, just in case I didn't explain that earlier, when I say associations, that's just my placeholder word for all trade associations, professional societies, and other nonprofits. Here is the real challenge I see for you and I in this world. And I've been doing multi-day selling to intensive retreats for speakers for years. I've been speaking at chapter meetings since the mid-90s. And the positioning is the Achilles heel that we tend to have. Agree that this guy knows who he is, what he's about. To see if anybody makes any kind of a facial comment. Are you guys still hearing me?
Ed, yes, we hear
Okay.
you, but we have collectively turned off our videos just to give
Okay.
your internet connection.
Oh, to give me more.
more
Oh, thank you. Okay, very good. Then I won't ask you questions. I'll just tell you stuff. Okay, very good. So in looking at this guy, he knows what he's about. He knows how to tell the world, this is what I do. And it's not like a speaker that says, "Oh, I'm an expert in leadership, social media, customer service, HR, multi-talented." We can fall into the trap of being the handyman, not the professional craftsman. And people will pay the master craftsman far, far more than they will pay the handyman. So within that, this is something that I created quite a while back. Everybody take a screenshot of this because this is something that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on it, but not a lot of time on it. And I would encourage everybody, on your own to spend some time. So, and what I'm going to talk to you about is 4 associations. Again, 4 associations. So associations need, and I know we hate it, they need to be able to put us in a pigeonhole, which means, what is our topic category? Are we a speaker on sales? Are we a speaker on leadership? Are we a speaker on marketing, etc.? So they know which slot to put us. And also, if they're looking for the keynote, a lot of times they're looking at what kind of a keynote. So where a lot of us have a problem is they won't pick one lane. That doesn't mean that you can't do other programs. It just means that you've got to put yourself out there as this is my lane. Now, within that, okay, let's just take leadership. We all know there's only 5,432 speakers in the United States on the topic of leadership. So the key here is that upper umbrella, the top canopy. Why are you different? Why are you unique? Why are you special? What do you bring to the topic that nobody else does? Now, what I try to get people to do is on all these lines of the parachute, put down the things that you do. Let's say you've got a keynote on X. Let's say that you do a seminar every year on Y. Let's say that you do a podcast on Z. And what I'd encourage you to do is write down all the lines, and if you have to add more lines, that's fine, that you do, and look at for yourself and ask yourself, what topic?
Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you cut out a lot. And we were thinking that if you could stop your video as well, maybe it will help a little bit. If you just talk to us.
Video, is that going to kill my
No, it just helps your internet bandwidth to handle the information that's coming to you. It looks like the issue is on your side.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's okay. Let's give it a try.
Can you, I my video, but can you see my screen share?
Yes, we can see you, we can hear you, it's all good. And
okay,
it's okay, it can happen, but we're making the best of it.
All right. Not a problem. Sorry if, yeah, oh well, who knows why we're having the challenge, but we are. So in looking at this, the thing is association people want to bring in somebody that is truly a subject matter expert, that is truly expert on a topic, as unique, you different. That's what's going to get you bookings. If you're just, I'm just another speaker on leadership, hire me, then it's not going to get you hired. It's this uniqueness. So this is where I think so many speakers have a problem in trying to sell associations to communicate the value that you deliver, is to be able to say, well, I'm a speaker on leadership and my unique approach to leadership is ABC. I have this special program for helping leaders move from Leaders 101 to Leaders 505 or whatever it might be. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for just another speaker on leadership. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the credibility for speakers because I think this is an important thing. So, not every speaker out there is a war celebrity, sports celebrity, music celebrity, TV star, or silver screen celebrity. Most of us are just mortal human beings. So we can do research and surveys. We can do certifications. We can get media attention, especially today through various social media avenues, especially looking at, doing blogs and podcasts and having a YouTube TV channel, so forth and so on. We can get authority by being a columnist. We can naturally be a self-published author. It's so easy today to publish a book. It really, really is. Unfortunately, it's so easy that a lot of books that get published are very, very mediocre and don't have a unique approach to their topic. But still, that's something that, years ago, it was book industry, but today, any self-published is fine. My last book was self-published. So in looking at this, the book on the top left there, The Art of Partnering, that was a traditional publisher. My next book, Developing Strategic Alliances, was a traditional publisher. My book, Partnership, was Wiley, a traditional New York publisher. But the ROI of membership, which gets me a lot of business with trade associations on member recruitment, membership growth, proving the return on investment, I self-published that book. They cost me $2. I sell them for $50. And so I don't want to dispel, self-publishing because I think that there's, a lot of room for it. But I will say that partnership book published by Wiley did get me a lot of keynote presentations. So there is that benefit of a New York book versus a self-published book. Certifications, one of the things that you can reasonably easy get is your CSP. I got mine in 2000. It's not a huge thing in the association world, but it does tell these people that you care enough about your industry to go through the hoops to be a professional. For me, because a lot of the work I do with associations and help them with their member recruitment and strategic planning and so forth, having the Certified Association Executive credential really helps me because this is one where you're tested. And it's a 4-hour test with 200 questions. And the questions aren't fact-based, they're opinion-based. And you've got to know the facts to choose the right opinion. So that puts me in a category equal to most of the association CEOs that I'm working with. So you can look at what certifications are within your industry. Also, in looking at positioning yourself, two things. Number one, like all your social media, you should use a similar picture so people will recognize you immediately. The thing that I do for credibility is my raw and unedited executives YouTube TV show, where I interview association execs and subject matter experts. And this is something that puts me in a particular category with the association people. Also, if you looked at my LinkedIn, and same picture, something I'm going to offer to everybody out here, and I'll show you in just a moment. I'm connected with a lot of association people on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, I'm more than happy to do that for you. I'm more than happy to connect with you. And what that'll do for you is that will allow you to be second line to many of these association people. And if you want to try to connect with them, we'll talk more about it in a moment, it'll make it easier for you. If you do send me a request to connect, please make mention that you attended the NSA New Mexico meeting, because I get a lot of requests to connect. And if I don't know people, or if they looked a little odd, I don't connect. So please, I'm happy to connect with you, happy to make it easier for you to connect with these association people. and just make sure you let me know that you were at this this event. So what this just shows, when I did a search on somebody that in their business name, the word society, well, at 865 people I'm connected with directly. When I searched nonprofit association management as a topic, it yielded 4,100 people that I'm directly connected to. So that would be something that I think you'd find very helpful. The other thing out there, I'd like to encourage you to step it up a little bit and not just be a subject matter expert, but to step it up to be a thought leader within your area of expertise. This book was written by Mindy Gibbons Klein. She's an American, but she lives in the UK, and her handle is the book Midwife. And she wrote this really to kind of help promote, her service. But her real model, reach, engagement, authority, and longevity. I really, really like this because she talks about what is your reach out there in social media and other ways. How many people are you reaching out to, and she talks about how do you engage those people, and she talks about what have you done to create authority for yourself, and how long have you been doing it. If you've been doing it 2 weeks, you're not going to be considered a thought leader. If you've been doing it 2 decades, there's a better chance. So this is something that I would encourage everybody to think about. Not just be a subject matter expert, but can you be a thought leader? Also on LinkedIn, if you search on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's written a few articles, LinkedIn staff on this topic. So to put myself out there as a thought leader, on LinkedIn, I have a group, which is a closed group. It's called Member ROI for Associations and Societies. And it got up to about almost 3,000 people. I had to kind of pare it down a little bit. Now it's only at 1,800 members. I had too many people in the group. But, it positions me with these people. Okay, yeah, that's right. Ed's the ROI guy. He talks about how we prove the ROI of membership. And on LinkedIn, one of the things that you can do, there's a couple ways that you can prove authority out there. You can do auto posts, and there's a lot of programs that do it, from Hootsuite to others, that it just, at whatever interval you want, it'll go into your blog, it'll grab another blog randomly, and it'll post. And I was doing this for several years until Tom Singer in NSA, when he was doing Speakernomics last year, he introduced he introduced what Richard Bliss is teaching. I had him speak to my association CEO group several months ago. And so the Revive Social is what I used to use, but now what LinkedIn is looking for is manual posts and immediate engagement. So just to show you, let me go back. My auto post, I get 100, 200, 300 views. But in the manual post, and what the secret is getting a lot of your friends to engage immediately and write a 2 or 3 sentence comment, positive. And the more that it does that, the more it pushes. So as example, this post right here, it got 11,000. And that was just putting a shorter post about a topic on meetings and getting a lot of speakers to comment. And I got a lot of my association CEO group to comment, and it pushed it up there. So I think that's something that's worth looking at. Also, one of the things that I do for credibility that you might want to consider is I have workshops for association executives, no charge, on my website. I have 5 ethics courses. I've got another course on hiring staff. I've got courses on member ROI and around recruitment. And so they come they get this education, especially the people that are with their certified association executive credential. They have to renew every 3 years, and they need a certain amount of education, and they have to have 2 hours of ethics training. So as such, they're always, it's difficult for them to find it, so I make it easy. There you go. The group that I run with CEOs, and I talk about that a lot. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll go into the ASAE, collaborate, and on their CEO group. And when I brought in a guest speaker to talk to the group, I'll post that. And then so I'm constantly just kind of dripping out little bits and pieces of information. And let me shift gears just a moment. I'm going to check the time. Okay, so we've been going, about a half hour? I'll keep going for a little bit longer. So in getting paid to speak.
Ed, since we talked about time, you have until 10:30, so we're going to take a break at 10:30 Mountain Time. So in 27 minutes, we are scheduled for a break.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just jump in anytime and make sure I hit the bumper rails here. So in looking at how do we go to market, I'm going to give you 2 approaches. I think that not enough speakers really focus in on a laser approach, meaning pick a lane, pick an industry, and get known in that industry. As an example for me, the association executives, that industry of association, a lot of those people really, really know me because I do so much within that. Well, let's just say your market is distribution. Okay. Are you really, really, really focusing on that? And are you laser focusing? So what you want to do is I try to teach people, pick an industry, go deep. And I'll talk to you about the NTPA and subject directory in just a moment. But if you pick an industry and go deep, you contact every association in that industry, and you contact every one of their state associations and or regional associations and or affiliate. And pretty much any industry you go, it's going to take you several months to get through all the possible people you can communicate with. So I like to say, pick one until you exhaust that, and then pick another until you exhaust that, and then pick a third until you exhaust that. Also, and I'll talk a little bit about when you go deep in one industry, you can start looking for industry-specific societies of association executives and a lot of times association-specific association executive councils. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, the other approach is let association executives self-select that they want you. And you can do both of these approaches at the same time, as long as you understand in which sandbox you're playing. Am I playing in this moment in the laser sandbox, or am I playing this moment in the scattered sandbox? In the scattered sandbox, if you speak at state and local societies of association executives, you got to remember, all the people that are in that meeting, it's a host of association executives that could hire you, but from a host of different kinds of associations. And people are going to resonate with you that maybe you never thought about, and you maybe would never go after. So there's nothing wrong with having this 2-track approach, laser and scattered. Also, later, if we have time, I'll talk to you about hosted buyer events that you can speak at, and also in different video directories, like at the mentioned earlier, the SCARPEG. We have the Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame, and so we have a directory, and so anybody that showcases their video goes into the Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame in the directory. And I'm constantly sending that link to association execs, and I'm hearing from speakers that are getting booked that association people find them that they would have never found. And the same exact thing for the association and society speakers community I run. So in these various directories, now just being on NSA's e-speakers, big deal, because there's 1 million speakers there and it's not being driven hard. If you can get to a directory like, what Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame does, and we even went, Scarpig went to ASAE, their annual event last year. We bought a booth. We spent $7,500 on this thing. We bought a booth. We pushed out, speakers. So these are ways that you can take that scattered approach. Now, I talked about the NTPA directory. Here's the secret. If you were to get, and I'll talk to you in a minute about buying online, this digital, but if you were just to buy an older used copy, in the middle of the directory, there's what's called a subject index. And there's about 125 subjects, or you could call it an industry. Find the one that you most resonate with, and they've got then a list of anywhere from 50 to 200 associations. And right there is your prospecting list. Bam, you've got it. Instead of wandering around, what this. I got to tell you, my first 10 years in this business, I did so much bouncing around like a ping pong ball. It was crazy. It was crazy. So I really hope that you don't bounce around anywhere near as bad as I bounced around. So when you find the category and you start calling the associations, okay, you got to have a plan, and you got to have a plan on how you're going to get to the decision maker. And frequently the meeting planner is not the decision maker. I can't tell you how many times in the old days I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars sending packets out to meeting planners that weren't the decision makers, and the packages got thrown away. So I'm going to, talk to you a little bit about Robert Chinaldi's book, Influence, just reciprocity. The rest of it, most of you are familiar with this book. Everybody in college has to use it if you're in the Marcoms, sales and marketing. But let's talk about how we can use reciprocity for our best interest. Now, at my website, see it's circled here, Article Bank in the navigation. Your website probably says blog. And why my website says Article Bank is it puts me a step or three ahead of you, because I'm offering articles, not blogs. Now, if you go to Rigsbee.com, you hover across Article Bank, these are the subcategories of articles that will pop up. So I use articles as relationship bank deposits. And I want to, before I go a step further, I want to tell you, the game here is not whether you get your articles published or not. The game here is using your articles to connect with editors to find out who the decision makers are. That's the game. So here it is. We write articles. We give articles to association editors. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit later about articles, if we have time, and how to write articles that really work for associations. And I will talk a little bit about Chat GPT. But for now, let's just talk about really good quality articles that really demonstrate your expertise, your mastery of your subject, the fact that you are a thought leader and you have a different perspective. And then we use those articles as relationship bank deposits with the editor. And we talk to the editor and about what are the problems that their members are having. And then we offer articles that will help their members solve those problems. Then we use that as the basic bridge to get to the decision maker, because you're going to ask the editor who the decision maker is. Because too frequently, if you call an association and you get the reception person, they're the gatekeeper. Their job is to keep you away from the people you want to get connected with. But if you go in the back door through the editors, they've, you're giving them something, you're helping them. And, most of them, I'd say about 80% of them are going to be cool people. 20% are going to be jerks, but about 80% are going to be cool people. And they're going to go, wow, this is really helpful. And then when you ask for a simple relationship bank withdrawal, and that is like, well, who makes the decision on selecting speakers? Well, then they're probably going to tell you the truth. So, this game is, if you don't make calls, you're probably not going to make bookings. And I'm just sorry to tell you that, but that's the God's honest truth. There's a lot of reasons and ways to use LinkedIn. There's a lot of reasons and ways to use email. And we'll talk more about that as we move along. But you also have to be willing to make the calls. And if you're going to make the call, having a telephone script, not that you're going to repeat it word for word, but you're going to know it. So, Cynthia, what day is your birthday?
December 21st.
See how easy she did that? What you have to be able to do, as easy as Cynthia told us what day her birthday was, that easy, you have to be able to explain to an editor the value your articles deliver, and then you have to be able to explain eventually to the decision maker how your expertise is going to solve the problems that their members have. So this is the basic script, or the basic plan, I guess I really should say. Those of you that are members, Vivian Cobb, you're a member of the ASSC. If you go into the downloads, there's an actual long script PDF in the ASSC website under downloads that you can just grab and make your own. But so here's the deal. We're going to go to the editor. We're going to get the editor interested in our content. We're going to take them to our website, walk them through. I would encourage everybody to change on your website navigation from the word blog to article bank. That's just me. Then after you get the editor interested in your content, you use the doorknob close or Columbo close. And right before you hang up, go, oh, by the way, before I let you go, one last quick question. And they go, oh, what is that? And their guard is down. And you go, could you tell me, please, who is the person that's the decision maker for selecting speakers for your meetings? Now, the editor might say, Bill is our meeting planner. And then you say, oh, thanks. Is Bill the logistics person, or does Bill actually make the decisions? And then they make it, well, actually, Jane is our executive director, and she really does make the decisions. And then you go, great. Could you just, send my call over to Jane? I want to introduce myself and say hello to Jane before I leave the call. And a lot of times they'll do it. Not every time, but a lot of times they'll do it. And an internal transfer, Jane, the executive director, is much more likely to pick up the phone than a outside call trying to put through. Plus, the gatekeeper is going to block you anyway. And what you do when you do get to the decision maker, don't try to sell them. What you want to do is you want to say something like, hey, I was just talking with so-and-so, the editor. I made a number of my articles, I like to say adapted from my book, that will help your members to solve this problem, this problem, this problem. Are you finding that that's a pretty pervasive problem in your industry right now, and maybe even looking future? And a lot of times the executive director or whoever the decision maker is, yeah. Well, and you can ask something like, well, what kind of meetings do you put on to help your members solve those problems? And they maybe answer it. And then you can say something like, well, how do you select the speakers that bring the expertise to solve those problems? And then after that, shut up and listen, because they're going to tell you how to sell to them. And, they're going to give you the whole thing, whether they want emails, this, that, and the other. One thing I will tell you, at the ASSC website, there's 40 some odd interviews with association decision makers on selecting speakers. And one of the things that I'm constantly hearing from these people is, it drives me up the wall. I talk to a speaker, I tell them, call me back in 3 months, and they start calling me every week. And they say, I will not use them. Because I told them, call me in 3 months, and they're calling me every week. This is ridiculous. Also, they've said that if another pet peeve is speakers don't really understand who their industry is. So, before you call the association, noodle around on their website a little bit. You got to noodle around the website anyway to find out who the editor is. So noodle around and look at their meetings, maybe look at their publications to get an idea on who they are, because today the association decision makers on selecting speakers, they want you and I to have a high level of expertise and to be able to explain how it relates specifically to their members in their industry. And in the days of just coming in and talking about leadership in a generic way, not so much. The afterburners do that, and they come in and they put on a big show and all the video and the military and the pomp and circumstance, and that's entertainment. It's not problem solving. So you and I need to be about problem solving. Also, I think what will help you in working with these association executives, they understand buying motives. So people buy us to help their members for profit gain, that we are going to help their members to make more money. They buy us for fear of loss. Maybe they've heard that we've presented for competing industries and a little bit of FOMO. They don't want to miss out. Maybe we've got information that's going to help their members avoid pain. Could be legislative, could be regulatory, a host of issues around pain. Sometimes just comfort or pleasure, kind of like the afterburners, just a great show to put on, real exciting, fun. You get a tidbit of leadership and, off and running. Sometimes they're going to hire us because they just dig who we are and what we do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes it's the pride and prestige, frequently, of getting the subject matter expert, the author, not the person that read books on the topic, but the person that wrote the book on the topic. And so, those are things that you really need to kind of have in the back of your mind. So if you can't, if you can't get anywhere with the staff, there is another plan. But I will warn you that if you go to the volunteer leaders, there is that risk of ticking off the decision maker. However, it's useful. I can tell you there's been a number of times when I've looked at a website, found the conference chair, called the conference chair and said, may I send you a speaker packet? Now, or give them other information, website, but usually can I, send you a speaker packet? Sure. And then the conference chair sends the speaker packet to the guy that's selecting speakers, and I get booked. It's a wonderful thing. So what you can consider doing is, a lot of times on the website, if you go in about and you go in board or leadership, there's the volunteer president or the volunteer chair, the volunteer president-elect, the volunteer program committee chair, the volunteer events committee chair. These are people that might also be decision makers, but you just need to be really careful how you broach this. Now, I can't remember exactly why I have this slide on here, but I'll just move on. This is just to show you, Vivian, you've probably gone to this page. This is the conversations that I record, and it's with the people that are the decision makers. And, we put the emails, so forth and so on. And this has really helped me to be able to understand their issues to help you. Now, in the two-pronged attack for phone calling editors and or LinkedIn, I suggest here's a way that you can maximize yourself. In the mornings, when you're high energy, that's probably when you should be calling editors and talking live. In the afternoon, when you're low energy, that's maybe when you should be working on contacting people via LinkedIn. Don't do LinkedIn in the morning when you're high energy. That's really a waste of your time. So in connecting with association staff, here are some titles that you might want to search. CEO, Executive Director, Executive Vice President, COO, which is Chief Operating Officer, Publications Editor, Director of Communications, Director of Marketing sometimes, and Director of Events, Conferences, or Meetings. These tend to be the titles of the people that are intimately involved in meetings and selecting speakers. Now, the editor, not so much, but you want the editors because you want to know who those people are and connect with them to use them to get you in the back door. So you can go into search and search for these people. So if you go into your LinkedIn search and click on, go into your network and search under all filters, click on people that are second degree. Now, again, if you've sent me a request to connect on LinkedIn and make sure you put a note in it from this workshop, I'll be happy to connect, and that'll put you second line connection with a ton of association execs. And what I suggest, I only search two things. On the bottom there where it says title, we put in CEO and do search for association, then come back and do executive director, search for association. Then, go through each of these titles, then go back again and do it again for society. And you're going to get a good number because so many of the trade associations and professional society will either have the word association or the word society in the name of their organization. So learn how to play with LinkedIn a little bit better and get the specific people. The other thing that you want to be careful is when you connect with LinkedIn, I'm a real booger about this. Real stickler. If I connect with somebody and the next communication they're trying to sell me something, I immediately go in and disconnect with them. Sorry, I do that. So when you put a request for connecting, and you have to write a sentence or two or three, and I'll write something like, and I always put the person's first name, John, we have 47 mutual connections. I'm the CEO of a small nonprofit, would love to connect with you. And a lot of them do, some don't. But, then as the thank you for connecting, making the relationship bank deposit, I say, hey, I just want to let you know, I've got a number of articles that you might want to use for your publications. And, here's permission to use them. And it's making a relationship bank deposit. I've asked for nothing. I've only made a relationship bank deposit. Later, a few exchanges down the road, I'll ask for a withdrawal. And if we have a little bit of communication back and forth, eventually I'm trying to get to the question is, could you please tell me who is the decision maker in your organization that decides on speakers for your meetings? And how would be the best way to get a hold of that person? Okay, that's the relationship bank withdrawal. And with that information, now you can know who to go sell to. Also, if you're using your mobile app on LinkedIn, you can do a phone message. I don't know, a lot of people don't know about this, but on the phone app on the bottom, there's a little microphone logo. You click on that, you get about 30 seconds or so. And it's kind of a fun thing that's a little bit different that people aren't used to. So that can be a differentiator. The other thing that's, I don't use this, but who was your chapter president several years ago? The last time I spoke for chapter, Romy, he was pretty good with using this and others. Vidyard or BombBomb, or where you put a video into an email. I don't use it, and there's no particular reason why I don't. Maybe it's my own personal laziness, but I wouldn't discourage this. So I just wanted to make sure I did bring that up. And just before we take a break, let me make this statement. Before you write the contract with an association, it's called negotiating. After you write the contract, it's called begging. So what you want to make sure that you do is come in a strong way. Something that I do, you don't have to do it, it's just something I do. When people say, what's your fee? I say, well, my nonprofit fee is 50% of my corporate fee. My corporate fee is $15,000. My nonprofit fee is $7,500. And then right there, I've put them on notice that we're not going to do a lot of negotiating because I've already given you a 50% discount. So that is a smart way to keep them, because they always say, well, we're a nonprofit. Yeah, I know you're a nonprofit. All associations are nonprofit, but you're not a non-revenue generating organization. Sometimes you can negotiate with them, go, tell you what, how about if I save you some money? Let me come to your meeting. Let me put on multiple programs, this and this and this and this, and then that's one fee, one flight, one hotel room. And I even used to do this a lot. I would tell associations, tell you what, and my fee went back a couple of years ago, it was about 12 grand. I would say, let me come to your entire meeting and be your entire speaker. That way, you don't have to hire any other speakers. You don't have to pay any other fees. You don't have to have any other flights. One time I had a guy from Canada call me up at a paper box association. He goes, Ed, I don't want you to be insulted, but I figured out it was cheaper for me to hire you and do my whole meeting than for me to bring 3 free speakers in from Toronto. This was a meeting in Maui. And I said, I'm not insulted. Thank you. So, I mean, it's okay for you and I to take business from other speakers by saying, let me solve another problem. Let me solve an expense problem. I know you're having dollar problems right now. Here's a solution to those dollar problems. Also, you can talk about pre and post events is part of your package. And you can, and when I talked about this earlier, in-kind things, if you get membership in that organization, it gives you access to the membership list. If you maybe LinkedIn recommendations, maybe they'll do a series of e-blasts, promoting you. Maybe they'll give you a video interview or give you a video program that goes out to all the members, video testimony. There's a lot of things that you can ask for in return. So make sure you just don't forget pre-contract negotiation, post-contract baking. Okay, is this a good time for us to take a break?
Yes, this is a great time for us to take a break. Thank you so much, Ed. It is 10:30, everybody, and let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We will be back here at 10:40. Go put your fingers in ice if you have been scribbling a lot of notes, because I have to do it to be ready for the second half of our session here today. Cynthia, do you have anything to add?
No, we're good. I'm going to play a slideshow that has our event information, our upcoming event information. And so go get something to drink and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. about you, but I've been taking a lot of notes.
I'm here. Just tell me when you want me to get started again.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I've been doing screen capture.
Yeah, same here. Actually, that too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've got a small notebook here and I've got 6 pages so far, but I write kind of big, but still.
But still,
And
yeah.
lots of screenshots. Okay. Let's see. I think we have everybody. All right, Ed, why don't you go ahead and take it away.
Okay, let me get back to getting my screen share to work again. Where did it go? There it went. Okay, we should be good now. Before I go any further, I just want to make sure, and sorry to keep harping on this, but I think it's so important. The game that I'm suggesting you play is not a game of see how many articles you can get published. The game is use articles as relationship bank deposits to find decision makers. Now, nothing wrong with getting articles published. I've gotten a lot of business from getting articles published. Just, I've even gotten articles. I've even got business. I remember one group called me up. They read my article on partnering because I've got 3 books on partnering in an association magazine. Wanted me to come and do a full day program for their board. And when I asked them, well, how'd you hear about me? And they told me the magazine, and I'd never given that magazine my articles. But on my website, there is permission to reprint. We'll talk about that more later. So I'm not trying to suggest that articles are only valuable as relationship bank deposits, but understand the difference. There's a game here, and the game is find the decision maker. And if you get your articles published, awesome. But too many people get, at the end of my presentation, all they heard was, oh, get articles published and then I'll get business. And no, that's not the game. So sorry to overly stress on that, but okay, hold on. Just got to get my, okay. So, before I go further, one last thing. Cynthia, are there any pressing questions on this first bit of information before I launch into the next bit of information?
Ava has been looking for those, so I'm going to let her jump in on that.
Oh, sorry, Ava. No? Okay. All right. Cool. Then I'll just keep moving along. Okay, so let's talk about finding these associations, and let's talk about finding them free. Now, I mentioned to you about the National Trade and Professional Associations Directory. Now, most of the big public libraries will still have that book in their reference section. Because of the fact that every year it was published, there used to be a lot of these available on Amazon and eBay pretty cheap because the public libraries get a new one each year. So more than likely, the larger public libraries will have this book. It'll be the 2019 edition, which was the last one that was published hard copy. And, you can go to the library, you can look in the subject index, take your phone, take pictures of the names of the associations and do it that way. That works too. And then there's various other directories out there for associations, but I really find the NTPA to be the best. Also, as far as a free resource, you can go directoryofassociations.com and you can search. Okay, now if you look at this, it says they have over 35,000. So that's nowhere near as many as maybe out there, but you can search by state, you can search by category, you can search by type, size. So this is another way that as I said, laser focus, as you're looking toward your laser for the category that you're interested, you can use this resource also. and, click on the directory. If now I know some people want to work mostly in your own state. New Mexico is not a large state for associations. So if you want to stay local with associations, you're going to kind of be limited to state associations, which are going to be pretty small and not going to have the budgets. But, move over next door to Texas, and that's a whole nother story. So in looking, as an example, what did I do? I clicked on Georgia. I found 800 associations. Okay, that'll keep me going for a while, don't you think? Also, you can go to Google, use autofill, and just, as an example, I put in manufacturing associations and look at all the different manufacturing associations that pops. So you can do that too. The associationexecs.com bought the directory rights from Columbia Publishing a few years ago. And they're predominantly trying to sell information online. Now, they do allow a limited free search. So, for instance, I popped in, and it's associationexecs.com, popped in manufacturing, and it gave me 30 associations. And each one of them is a link to their website. Now, buying the information, let's talk about that, and I'm going to stay on this topic of association execs. If you are a national member of National Speakers Association, you can buy the online, let me go over, one more, there we go. You can buy their online access, which is $899 for $349, but it's only for a year. So, even if you pay $100 for the old book, you're probably still financially better off. But anyway, however you want to approach it, I mean, not everybody likes to approach things the same way, but you can do it either way. Also, as I mentioned in getting the book, type into Amazon, National Trade and National Trade and Professional Associations of the United States. Also search National Trade and Professional Associations directory and find what's available. So like this one was available a while back for some egregious amount of money. Others for lesser amounts of money. Also on eBay, I found a several-year-old one for a little over $100, and so it's less important because you're going to go to all of their websites anyway. And there's been a teeny bit of merging of associations over the last 10 years, but very, very little. So even an older directory is going to be pretty valuable, and that's going to help you because you're going to go into the subject index, and then you're going to use that. You're going to go to each association's website, so forth and so on. Now, I'm going to talk to you about some other entities out there that you're going to need to know about as you start your search. And, years and years ago, I started noticing that, hey, this address, doesn't that association have this address? Hey, doesn't this association have that? What's going on? And years ago, I learned about association management companies. So what that basically is, what it sounds like, it's a company that manages several associations. And the good thing about understanding association management companies, sometimes you can plug in to some of the bigger association management companies. They use you in one of their associations, you do well, and they're going to bounce you around to their other associations. And a lot of these association management companies, they tend to specialize in one industry, but not exclusively. So the website for these people, it used to be called the Association of Association Management Companies. About 10 years ago, they changed it to AMC Institute, in other words, Association Management Company Institute. You can see where I've circled, find an AMC. You can click on that. You can go to their search mechanism to find their various members. And this is another way to plug in. So if you find association management companies like let's say that your specialty is manufacturing and you find association management companies that tend to have most of their members are manufacturing, well, that's gold. There are big association management companies and they're small. Smith Buckland is one out of Chicago. They have 300 associations, 300 clients they manage. And, they also do like lunch and learns, and they do online lunch and learns. So there's ways to plug into these people. Kellen is an association management company, very, very large. They span the globe. So if you're somebody that says, I'm young, I want to do international travel, I want to go all around the world and spread my story, well, then you might want to start connecting with Kellen, and not only their US offices, but their out of country offices. And so I think that that's an area to consider. There's a lot of them. It's worth your energy. Now, also, when I talked about that self-selecting by societies of association executives, so an association executive, they're either going to be a paid staff person of an association or they're going to be an association management company employee. And where they hang around is industry-specific association executive councils, their state or local society of association executives, and or their national. I like to play at ASAE. So in looking at this, one thing I want you to understand about association executives, there is a propensity for them to be risk averse. Now, if they were entrepreneurial minded people, they would probably have gone into the for-profit sector. They're not so bureaucratic that they want to go work for the post office and want to be a bureaucrat, but they're somewhere in the middle. But why it's important for you to understand this is when you work with these decision makers, you need to be the safe choice. And you need to convince them that choosing you is a safe choice. So in looking at the paid staff, again, CEO, executive director, executive vice president, administrator, president, volunteer staff, president, chair. If you want to go to the various state societies, put Louisiana in here. So you can go to their websites, click on the About. Also, Vivian Cobb, just so you know, at the speaker community website in downloads, there's a whole list of these in the downloads that you have access to. So help yourself to those. So in the About, I've got information. I see Julie is the executive director. I click on more information. I get, here's her email, here's her phone number. Now I know how to get a hold of her. Because if you speak at a Society of Association Executives meeting, everybody in the audience just about is an association executive, and they can hire you to come to their company. This is where I talked about that self-select idea. Let them self-select you. Texas SAE is pretty close to you guys. That's a pretty strong one, as you would guess. Georgia SAE, that's another strong one. Florida SAE is a very strong one. And they put on pretty substantial meetings. Again, if you're a member of the ASSC, I usually put the call for proposals from these SAEs in our call for proposal page. So if you're an ASSC member, don't forget to look at the call for proposal page. Or you can just Google it. I put in Society of Association Executives. Okay, so there we go. There's a whole bunch of them that start to pop. This is something that I wanted to tell you about. Several years ago, American Society of Associations kind of divorced itself from all the state SAEs, just kind of pushed them out. So most of the state SAEs created their own alliance or society. And so it's called Association Societies Alliance. Here is their URL. And if you click on the About, oops, I went too fast. If you click on the About, you're going to find usually the people in the organization, the leadership, so forth and so on. So this is another way to find the state SAEs. Now, if you speak at a state SAE, sometimes you're going to get paid, sometimes not. And especially if not, you need to have a strategy when you speak. Here's my strategy. It might work for you, might not, don't know. But what I will do is I kind of play dumb farmer a little bit, and I'll start my presentation. I'll get talking, I'll go machine gunning. I wait till I'm watching everybody feverishly writing notes. And then I kind of go, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hey, let me help you out. So you don't have to work so hard writing notes. If anybody wants the content from the PowerPoint, I'll strip out all the pictures because it's too big of a file to send off, and just drop your business card up here at the front, write PowerPoint, and I'll get it off to you in the next couple of days. And I get tons of people that leave me their card. Well, if somebody leaves me their card, I naturally send them the PowerPoint, and I kind of figure, well, that gives me permission to call them. So, I wait a week or two, depending on time, I'll call up and go, hey, how'd you use the information from my workshop? And that's a very benign question. It's not threatening. And they'll either say what they did or didn't do. I'll also ask them if they've accessed my article bank, because I always talk when I speak at an SAE group about my article bank, that they can have articles and permission to reprint is right there. I also mentioned to them about my LinkedIn member ROI group, ask them if they joined that. So I've asked 3 questions there that are really benign. Then I get into an important question and say, hey, is there a chance we might do business in the next 12 months? And that's really, I want to get their guard down a little bit before I talk about, hey, how might we do business? And depending on how that question goes, I'll always follow up with this one. Well, can you connect me with others, or can you recommend me to others? So I want to have a plan. If I'm going to speak either for a fee or a low fee or no fee in front of all these people that can hire me, I want to make sure that and if you want to use Mobit or, like a text capture system, whatever works for you. I mean, there's a million right ways to do it. I'm old school, I'm analog, just give me your business card. And it's then gives me something, I have a plan and I can talk to them. So then you can, the other approach, and that approach was the self-select, kind of the spread it out, just scattershot. But in the targeted approach, I mentioned about industry-specific societies of association executives and other interesting things. So let's talk about that. There's that, there you are, Vivian, at the SSC website under resources, hit downloads, and you can see there's the selling script that you can download and the list of state societies association executives. All members have access to this. And if you download the list, there it is with the URL right there. Now, this is the American Association of Engineering Societies is an industry-specific Society of Association Executives. So if you're working a particular industry in that NTPA book, and you also manage to find if there is an industry-specific Society of Association Executives, you want to try to get in to speak at this group, because all the executive directors that come to this meeting or CEOs are your target audience. So, I mean, there's not every industry has an industry-specific society, but many do. So it's worth making sure you look that up. If you're in medical, AMSI, American Association of Medical Society Executives, same thing. Food Industry Association Executives, there's the URL. Well, you can't quite read it. The N on association is left off, but I mean, this website, if you look at the very top, you might do a real quick screen capture here, because at the top there's the URL. But this just scrolls down for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, finding more and more associations. So it's like this is a way to find industry specific, if in the food industry. this is it's the National Association of Restaurants, or National Restaurant Association. I'm sorry, National Restaurant Association. There's state associations, as you would guess. Well, all the state executive directors of the National Restaurant Association created their own little group called the Council of State Restaurant Associations. So that's an industry-specific group of those executive directors. Well, if you could get in and speak at that meeting, now you'd have probably 50 people that could hire you, state associations, in your audience. And so in their directory, I'm looking, and here you can see they've got it all laid out, all the people's names, how to get a hold of them. It's really, really, silly simple. International Association of Hotel Association. I'm sorry, International Society of Hotel Associations. Same kind of thing. Like I several years ago, I spoke for the Hispanic meeting planners. Years before that, I spoke at the Coalition of Black Meeting Planners. Well, different meeting planner groups have their associations, but also different kinds of hotels. Like there's the Hispanic hotel owners, there's this, that, and the other. So it's just depending on the industry that you've targeted, is there a society of association executives within that industry that's industry specific that you could target? Also, what you can do is like this one here, in the National Alliance of State Pharmacy Associations. So under members, you can see we got state associations. So, okay, look at here, state associations, bingo, state associations. And look at there, they show the person that is the executive director, their contact information. I don't know if you notice the ones below have little pluses. When you go to that website, they've all got pluses and they've got very little information. You just got to make sure to hit that plus sign on the right, and then more information about the executive director pops. Makes it really, really easy, really easy. Association of Osteopathic State Executive Directors, same exact thing. If you're into the medical, it gets you, and you just click on Board of Directors and look at all of the people on the Board of Directors are state executive directors. So you can talk to them about speaking at their meeting, but also you can talk to them about speaking at their association.
So Ed, question for you real quick, just to clarify. So when we go to these types of websites and we actually find the decision maker on the website, is the conversation the same as what we would be doing if we were sending articles to the editor person?
If it's appropriate. There again, it's much easier for me because all of my content's about membership growth, and that's what they all care about. So, but I think you can do the same thing if you have you take it through the window of, you find out who's running the organization and go, hey, I've got several articles that I think would help your executive directors to do a better job of A, B, and C. Again, it's our job to customize our chit chat, our patter, and our articles to make sure we're solving the problem of the potential audience. If we just go and say, hey, I've got articles on, basket weaving, they don't care. But, it's like right now, a lot of associations are having problems with employee retention and employee acquisition. If that's your expertise, well, they're going to be real interested in that. So, it's just, you have to try to adjust what you do to fit them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Continuing, as an example, state retail association, same thing. This is a group for CPAs, same thing. Then there's something called federations. Now, the National Farm Bureau Federation is really just an umbrella organization that all the state and local Farm Bureau federations belong to. Now, a few years ago, I spoke at their summer meeting where they bring all their federation leaders in, because I was speaking on membership recruitment. And so there's this is a situation, and there's other federations out there that, again, depending on how you hone your content to make it fit their executive directors and leaders, and then how that content, when you're giving that program, would help their members. So if I'm talking to the person, Maggie's the gal that books speakers for this group. If I'm talking Maggie Wolf, I'm going to be talking about her leaders. Now, when I'm talking to her leaders, I'm going to solve a problem, but also talk to her about their members. So, you've got to understand how this game steps down. So at the Farm Federation, you can click any of the states, and it gives you the list of all the federations in that state. Okay, I'm going to shift gears again. I'm going to go just to a little bit of, giving you some insight on how to play around on these websites to find stuff you want to find. So I'll talk about state and regional chapters, association executive councils. I'll talk about state websites, looking for links to the national and other associations. So, for instance, the National Trucking Association. Okay, if you were to go to the National Trucking Association's website and you're noodling around trying to find out when their meetings are, this, that, and the other, if you keep noodling, all of a sudden you're going to find out, they have the Trucking Association Executives Council. As it says, is comprised of staff executives and state trucking associations and conferences, yada, yada, yada. So when you go to a website, in addition to looking for the editor to connect into finding the decision maker for the meetings and the workshops and all the various things, don't forget, if it's a large association like the National Trucking Association, you would guess that's a large one, that do they have an association executive council? Don't leave that on the table. And if you could get in to speak at that association executive council, all the people you're going to be speaking to are those state executive directors. Also, in noodling around in websites, just National Park and Recreation, click on About. Okay, didn't find a whole lot here. Let's go down a little further. Oops, way down. Sometimes they always kind of fake you out. There's not much there, and if you don't think to scroll down to the bottom of the page, this one you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a link to staff. Cool. There's a link to the state and national affiliates. Cool. Now we've got a shopping list here of who we can go after. So on the state office, it gives you the people to connect with. And also, if you hit the state affiliates, these are all hyperlinked to their association. So you talk to the national editor, try to find out who the national decision maker is, and then you go call all the state associations, talk to their editor, give them your articles, try to find out who their decision makers are. At the National Association of College Stores, if you look over to the list, I circled people and groups, kind of a funny place to find it. And then the menu came up, state and regional college association stores. Oh, okay. Well, that's where the state groups are. And then in the About, I find the staff directory. And you can, in the staff directory, scroll down. You're going to look for the editor or the publications director or the communications director or one of those types. And if you can't find any of those, go after the COO. And ask the COO, hey, I've got a bunch of articles that will help your members to do ABC, which is the right person. Now here you see on this page, Dan Angelo is the assistant editor. Well, okay, you can call him. So, I mean, just be able to dance a little bit, be able to be flexible and not rigid in the respect that every website's going to be a little bit different. Every website, you're going to have to noodle around a little bit to get the information you want. National Association of Manufacturers is a very large umbrella association, and their members are manufacturing associations. So in looking at their website, go in, find the staff, right here, Senior Vice President Communications, but there's no number or email. Noodle around over on the department directory, I find the communications department, there's their phone number. So now I can call directly in and not even have to go through the reception. And then if you look down at the bottom, I circled allied associations. So that means any association that's related. So there's going to be a listing for you there also. And at the National Association of Manufacturers, when you click on their members, these are all manufacturing associations. And you notice all but one there, it's hyperlinked to the Manufacturing Association's website. And a similar type of a group, one step down on the supply chain, is the National Association of Wholesale Distributors. And they have the same kind of thing. Several years back, I spoke for their association executive council. That was all the executive directors from distribution associations. And you just have to start noodling around and you start finding where are things. And, you know, contact us, department contacts, oh, publications, there's the person right there, the events person. You know, you just have to keep, you know, member associations. If you look down all those associations, the member associations, just like with National Association of Manufacturers, each one of these associations can book you. And some of these associations will also have state associations. So you just have to keep going and not leave dollars on the table. NECA, National Association of Electrical Distributors, or Electrical Contractors, sorry. These are all the large contractors that are union houses. And, you know, I've spoken for their annual meeting a couple of times. Noodle around, oh, look at here, I found find a chapter. And here's chapter directory. And they broke it up and give you different ways you can search chapters. And then funny enough, also at the very bottom of their website, hidden at the bottom, there's the chapter staff and the national staff directory. So that will give you people that you can directly connect with rather than having to call and ask the reception person. Also, if we look at industry affiliated associations, here's an example. Okay, this is the National Association of Oil, that's funny, of Oil and Energy Service Professionals. Noodle around on their website under the About, and I find down here industry links. Okay, what are industry links? Go over and go, well, this is not helpful. It's just a bunch of logos. But again, remember when I said, don't forget to scroll down. So let's scroll down. Oh, down here at the bottom, here it is. Here's all the related associations to this group. So let's click on Petroleum Marketers Association, who I've spoken for before, so I know who they are. And then in their navigation about PMAA, and also you see member associations and you see journal. All the stuff you need is right there, those three links, as far as getting to the editor, contacting their member associations, the whole thing. So down at the bottom, we've got I can get a hold of the staff, so I can find the editor. Right here, all of the member associations, which are all the state associations. And, you know, it's sometimes you'll go down a rabbit hole like this, and it might take 2 weeks to get through all of the potential associations that you can talk to, give your articles to, find out who the decision maker is, talk to the decision maker, find out how they want you to sell to them, and put it in your CRM to sell to them that way. Also, I love meetings, industry publications, and hosted events, and you really should understand what these are. So in the meetings industry, there's publications, there's all kinds of them. And a lot of the magazines, they do, in these days, they do both online and print magazines. And they also put on what's called hosted buyer meetings. So in looking at a hosted buyer meeting, North Star Media Group is a very large group. They've been buying up various meetings industry magazines. So they're pretty substantial. And as a matter of fact, their VP, Lauren Eckelstein, I've interviewed her in my ASSC and all those interviews with decision makers. And she tells us completely how to get bookings in these hosted buyer events, because they bring meeting planners in and they give them education, which they need for their CMP, as well as the hooked up basically what is, instead of vendors, like CVBs and hotels and this and that, instead of them standing around handing out tchotchkes, they have assigned meetings. So it's kind of like speed dating. And these are fabulous. Most of the meeting planners like these. Most of the suppliers like these hosted by our events. So if we go to Meetings and Conventions Magazine, which one is their magazines, we look in the navigation at events. Okay, there it is, events. And we go to their other one, Successful Meetings, look at events. And this gives us an idea of where their events are. And we can contact them. Smart Meetings Magazine is another one. Marin Bright, she's out of San Francisco, and they put on meetings where they bring speakers in. Same thing. So a lot of these meetings will have 100 to 200 meeting planners. So if you get to speak at one of these meetings, industry magazine hosted by your events, there's going to be a, sorry for stopping, I just all kinds of things were buzzing on my screen from you guys. There's going to be a lot of people, and generally at these events, I've found it in the past because I've been to a lot of them, about half are association and half are corporate. So if you speak at one of these meetings to educate the meeting planners, if you have something that's of value to meeting planners, then you've got a really good chance to connect with all of the association decision makers and the corporate decision makers. As far as meeting industry, I'm just talking with a person, a guy by the name of Jeff, just joined our association speaker community a few days ago. And I was talking to him, and he was telling me something, yeah, I'm going to go get involved with my MPI chapter in my area. And I said, don't waste your time. I said, MPI is a waste of time. MPI, I've spoken at their big national meeting, their World Education Congress. They have great parties. They're nice people, but most of the MPI people are not decision makers. They're logistics people. They're going to choose which color napkin, not which speaker. So, I mean, MPI, the Southern California chapter in Orange County, they paid me to come and present to them. So, I mean, there is some money to be made, but the point I'm trying to say is this is not the playground where I think it's worth putting time. Now, in contrast, this is Professional Convention Management Association. Most of the people that come to this meeting are decision makers. I've spoken at their annual meeting. I've spoken at chapter meetings. They've hired me to come in and speak to their sponsors on partnering. I'm pretty familiar with this group out of Chicago. If you want to, get involved with a local chapter, if you want to, their annual meeting is at the beginning of the year. It's already over. If you want to try to, get on their program, their magazine Convene, I get their hard copy magazine, good information in it to really help you understand. These people can book you. So let me talk about, I've got a good bit of time. We've got about 45 minutes. Let me stop before I get into articles, because a lot of what I've talked about was strategy, and now I'm going to get into a little bit more tactics. Are there questions that anybody has regarding anything that we've chatted about so far? I'd be happy to kind of stop and talk about that.
All right. Do we have any questions? Would anybody like to unmute yourselves? And I don't see anything specific in the chat.
Okay.
But if somebody has, this is your opportunity. If not, we can move along.
Okay. Very good. If there's time at the end, we'll just see how it goes. But if there's time on the end, I'd be more than happy to, answer people's specific questions about their situation, their problem. I know I've been going through this, trying to make it mostly focused on, questions that people have that would serve everybody. But let's talk about articles. Now, unless you are living under a rock, you've heard of Chat GPT. And so for us speakers, there's the question, to Chat GTP or not to Chat GPT? I think it's a very interesting question. So last night, I put in the query 25 video titles for association member recruitment. Now, as I look at these 25 titles, They're all okay. They're not terrible, but they're nothing special. They're more medium or mediocre than they are dramatic. So if I were to use Chat GPT to write an article for me, my article would be generic. Now, the challenge is associations don't want generic articles. Their editors can go do this. So why do they need to get ours? Our stuff has to be very association friendly. It has to be the kind of content that their members are going to want, and their members are going to find, wow, this is really good. So now if I were to use Chat GPT just to give me some articles here, titles, and I thought, oh, okay, there's some good ideas here, but they need a bit of work. And I were to go hone the title, okay, that's fine. So I just want to talk about this because especially around NSA in the summer at Influence, there's going to be a lot of talk about this. And people very close to me, oh yeah, I'm writing articles and blogs left and right. Yeah, and you're putting crap out. So, you know, is that how you want to position yourself, as crap? Or do you want to position yourself as being a subject matter expert? If you want to position yourself as being a subject matter expert, what you put out has got to be far, far, far better, far, far more tailored than what Chat GPT can do. Using Chat GPT for a first draft, okay, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you rely on this, no. It's not, I mean, look at there's in all of these titles that popped up, there was nothing about member ROI, which is my specialty, which all the associations want to know about. But Chat GPT couldn't find it. So I will caution you, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but I just want to get you thinking about, if you use this AI for a first draft or to help you get thinking about things, that's great. That's great. But not as a final product. So my 6-step method for selling to or for writing articles for associations, I'm not going to spend tons of time, and I'm going to get into it a little bit. The first thing is you want to write a title with a benefit and a hook. If you go back and look at those Chat GPT titles, not so much, pretty generic. So with the title's got to tell somebody, there's something here that I'm going to learn that I really need to learn. And that benefit has to hook them in. And the interesting thing, 20 years ago when all writing was done for print, you could put the keyword in the back of the title, no big deal. But today, you might want to consider putting the keyword in the front of the title, because today we do a lot of electronic publishing, and Google is going to be more apt to find your article if the keyword is in the front rather than the keyword in the back. So think about, articles you've written and ask yourself, okay, how could number one, is there a benefit there that's going to give the person a promise that it's worth reading the article? And how can I make it more of a hook? And see, Chat GPT is not going to do that for you. You have to do that. Then, when you get into the first sentence is really the connector between the title and the body of your work. And that first sentence has to grab their attention and give them some kind of promise that yes, the title wasn't clickbait, the title was honest, and what I'm going to share in the text of this article is related to the title, and people want to see that. The next thing, and this is especially for print Think about a magazine page that is just all text. You look at it, your eyes glass over, and you don't read it. But and this is the thing that you got to remember. A lot of the people that are members of these associations are busy. Their association magazine is going to come. They're going to, flip through it real quick. And you want something that's going to grab their attention. And when they're looking at it visually, you want to have bullet points or numbered points, and you want to have them, the main topic, bold. So visually, when somebody looks at it, they're going to grab it, because the editors are going to look for, how do you have your article on your website? And if it's not going to grab the editor's attention, then they know it's not going to grab their members' attention. Now, if their members really like your articles and are sending notes to the editors that your articles are great, the editor is going to keep putting more of your articles up there, and that's going to help you to get more known in that industry. And again, that's why it's really, really good to specialize in one industry, because then one of the things I'm constantly hearing, these association people I've been interviewing for the community conversations, that we go to our affiliate organizations meetings. We see the speakers there and we bring them to our meetings. So then the next step, and this is, it's a hard step, but it's a fun step. Before I go any further, I forgot to mention, let me just say this. If you're looking at a one-page magazine article for an association, it's probably in the neighborhood of around 700 words, give or take. And if an article's 700 words, I kind of think you should keep it to 3 to 5 bullet points. For whatever reason, and I know Gregory, who's a professional writer, he might argue with me, or he might agree with me, who knows. But I if you want an odd number of bullet points, it just looks better. And for 700 words, 3 to 5 is plenty. It really, really is. And make sure graphically, when people look at it, they can just very quick, there's 3 main topics here. And then, if you want to go, depending who does your website, make sure your title is an H1 header, and make sure the article bullet points are put in the keywords. I put every article, on a different page, just using the blog mechanism. So here's the fun part: sloganizing the bullet points. And sloganizing, it could be you could choose rhyming instead of sloganizing. You can choose idioms, that are known in the industry. A lot of you might know Sam Horn. She is so famous for so many years for writing the book Tongue Fu, and it's great, Kung Fu for the tongue. And she really got something there, and it's catchy. And so what you want to do, and again, ChatGPT is not going to do this for you. And you want to, for each bullet point, kind of agonize a little bit over, okay, how do I sloganize this? Now if you're doing leadership and you got 3 bullet points, trust, communication, and consistency, that's okay. And ChatGPT could do that, but you need to take it up to the next level and sloganize those terms and do it in a way that kind of catches people's fancy. Whether you're using an American idiom, a family saying, whether you're using rhyming, you just to take your writing and push it up a level to where when the editors are looking at that and you're talking to them on your first call to the editors, and you take them over to your website to look at some of your articles, you want them to go, oh my God, these are really good. You don't want them to say, oh yeah, that looks like ChatGPT. No, you want them to say, this is really good. And for them to kind of get, yeah, you are a subject matter expert. Yeah, you just might be a thought leader in this topic. Then the close, and this is something that a lot of speakers, they want to put sales throughout, and you really don't want to do that. It's just at the very end of the article, and understand some associations may leave it in and some associations may take it out, and don't worry about it. But at the close, if you offer something that relates to that article, and you say, go to www.hereitis.com or email me at rigsbee.com, whatever, and you offer them a 37-point checklist or a white paper on it or an executive summary on your book or this or that or the other, that will help you grow your email list and keep feeding information out to these people. And these people, if they like you, depending on what corporation they work for, you could get a booking there. Depending on what associations they belong to, you could get a booking there. So make sure that you do that. And the thing is to understand, everything above the bio line is for the reader. Everything below the bio line is for the author. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone around chapters, and we've done like half-day workshops on these where we actually write the articles. And I've had people, kind of go over the article, and I said, let me tell you why that'll never be printed. And some of the chapter members get a little ticked at me, and it's like, you wrote an advertorial. That's not an article with content to help somebody. It's an advertorial. So you got to make sure that your article really solves a problem that people have, and your expertise helps them to solve the problem. And the top of the article is all about them. And then from the bio line on, it's all about you. Okay. Oh, something, and I'll tell you how I've evolved. 10 years ago, I used to always say at chapter meetings, if you don't have an 800 number, you're not in business. And oh gosh, I've lost track of when it was, but a lot of years ago, when my oldest son, finally, finished school, moved out and all that, I moved my office back home where it was 25 years before. And there was a challenge in trying to bring the 800 number. And my oldest son says, hey, Dad, it doesn't matter anymore. Everybody's got a cell phone. They're not paying toll charges. And, it was like kind of an epiphany for me. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Just, so sometimes we got to let go of some of our older thinking. So with that, I just tell people, I tell editors, I want my URL. So, and the phraseology I use is triple redundant. I say live clickable hyperlink. I know all three words mean exactly the same, but that way there's no question of what I'm asking for. So let's talk about, I heard early that you guys are going to get together to be with each other about writing books. And I will tell you, this book, The ROI of Membership, I pretty much wrote it the way I'm going to show you. And the idea is, and I will actually show you, I didn't plan the book ahead. I knew that I wanted to write a book on member ROI, but I had been writing articles on that book from 2000 to 2013. And in 2013 is when I wrote the book. In 2014 is when it was published. So if you think a little bit about this, and you start now, why not in your computer somewhere in My Docs have my book? And it can be, whatever you want it to be. And in that file, in your My Book file, you have 10, 12 subfiles that are chapter titles. Now, understand, don't get odd about this, because you can change things later. So don't go, I can't do this because I might change it or this, that, that. Don't worry about it. So if now you start with a general outline, you've got you've got your kind of your basic, what you think the table of contents might be, and you've got the chapter files accordingly. If you start writing an article every week or 2 or 3, or an article every month, and you make sure the article fits in one of those chapters, and then put the article out there, throw it in the file, in the chapter, and a year or 2 from now, without really thinking much about it, you're going to have written your book. This book, I went back in to scores of my articles, printed them all out, laid them all out on the floor in the living room, figured out an order, hole punched it, put it in a notebook, and then went back and started working on, had a basic general book almost laid out, and then it's time to go in and clean it up, and make it better. So the other little secret you can use, and this works really, really well, is when you offer your articles to editors, always talk about, this article is adapted from my forthcoming book titled ABC. Now, you have a working title, but it doesn't matter if eventually your book gets published under a different title, because you're going to have these on your website. You just go on your website and you just change it. Instead of forthcoming book titled ABC, you change it to forthcoming book titled XYZ. And really, really simple. Nobody cares. It's great. But the older days of hard copy publishing, first serial rights, what it really meant was somebody's going to bring out a book, and a magazine wanted first serial rights, meaning the first magazine to publish an article adapted from the book. And today, I just, on my website, it just says permission to reprint. That's all it says. And I lay it out. And on my permission to reprint, let me get to that in just a minute. But I just would encourage you, forthcoming book titled, and the editors are going to be more interested in you and your article. So again, I have the articles at my website. And way before WordPress had the blog built into it, my articles were, on the website on separate pages. If you put your photo, that can be cool, because they will sometimes use that. I would make downloadable high and low resolution files of the book. And I'd usually put my bio at the end of each one, and then my reprint parameters. So my reprint parameters say, I hereby give, and you can go to my website and get the exact wording, and feel free to steal my exact wording. Go ahead, help yourself. And if you, except for maybe take my name out and put your name in, but use the, if you want to use the exact wording, go for it. But it basically says, I hereby give all print and electronic media permission to reprint the article on this page. Also given is permission for reasonable edit. And you might go, well, what is reasonable edit? Well, I don't know. Reasonable edit means whatever the editor wants it to mean. And so in the reasonable edit, if an editor gets kind of pushed behind, I like to joke with editors about this. I'll say to an editor, I'll go, well, if you ever have a member that promises you an article and doesn't deliver, and then they kind of laugh and say, yeah, that hasn't happened since yesterday. I've got my articles 24/7 available to you. And my articles are, there's permission to reprint, and there's permission for reasonable edit. So what that means to you is, if you like an article and the word count isn't right, you could adjust. And I'll tell everybody on this call, I've never had an editor make me look like a monkey. I've only had editors make me look smarter than I am. And I will tell you sincerely, I've gone back in and changed some of the articles on my website after an editor sends it. Hey, I did a little work on your article. Is this okay? And I look at it, ooh, that's really, really good. And it was far better than what I did. So why I've had so many articles published. I mean, 10 years ago, I was at 2,500 hard copy print articles, and I don't know how many electronically published, and I quit counting 10 years ago. I honestly don't know how many articles I have out there published, but because of the fact that I'm going to be the easiest guy, because 24/7, if they need to get an article, they can get it. And so, like, let me go back. So if you look at here, click on Article Bank and hover over that, and these are all my subcategories. And the first one is association executives. And so when you go in there, as you can see on the top, it says permission can be found at the bottom of each article. And so these are all membership growth or membership related or association growth related articles broken down into the categories to make it really, really easy for them. And also, if you see, there's a word count. So the word count makes it easy for an editor if they see something that they're looking for, that they're interested in, but the word count is way off. I'm not forcing them to go in and open it up. You know, I'm letting them know that maybe you look around a little more, maybe you find something else. And so that usually works really, really well. And then when they pop on it, here's the article, they can grab it, they can use it, they can do what they want. Now, I'm going to just take the liberty of saying, if you do need additional help, like Vivian on the call, she belongs to our speaker community. You know, go to speakercommunity.org. Yeah, you know, read what's there, watch the videos. If this is something that's of interest to you, you know, check it out. Also, just to let you know, we're working on a book right now that we're going to give away at Influence. So if you go to Influence, you will get a copy of the new book that Aidan Crawford and I are working on, which is really a lot of what I just went through. So that will be something that might be helpful to you. And we are at the point where there's enough time for Q&A, and I will turn it over to Eva, and you can run it from there.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ed. Sorry for the delay here. I was taking notes, copious notes, but thank you so much. I'm pretty sure everybody got so much valuable information out of this session. This has been invaluable. Now, moving to the questions, I know earlier on, Janelle was asking, Ed, when you were talking about the fee structure, depending on what type of a speaker you are, her question was about, do these fees that you talk about, are they in person or are they virtual?
That's a great question. You know, the thing that I've been, it's all over the board, it's Wild West, but what I'm kind of generally hearing is that, you know, and I've experienced this a little bit myself, that if you do a virtual presentation, you can kind of expect half your in-person fee. And I know that they're buying your expertise, but their logic is you're not spending a day flying out, you're not spending a day flying back. You know, we're saving you 2 days of your life, you know, where you could be doing other virtual presentations. And so I would be thinking about half.
Okay, about half the fee that you would charge for the live event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Now, there's going to be some people that'll contradict me and say, "Oh no, I get my full fee." Well, you know, maybe some do, you know, but I'm just talking kind of more of a broad brush, and what a lot of the association people have told me that, you know, that's kind of their expectation that they're going to get a deal because you're not spending the day flying there and the day flying back.
Yeah. Okay. Then Larry is asking about speaking to associations. Do we need to join the associations?
That's another good question. No, I would, the associations, let me back up a little bit. So some associations, and I'll just use the National Association of Realtors. uh,